What is up, Sunday fams? Welcome back to another video. We are going to go over Sweet Home, Alabama.
No, just Sweet Home. Sweet Home is a perfect combination of chaos, absurdity, terror, and of course your average cheesy graphic. But we gave it a pass largely because it just filled with amazing social dynamics.
Yeah, the characters are super interesting. The monsters, we gave some of it a pass. Some of the special effects in combination with practical effects, some of them worked, some of them didn't. It felt like, as you said, like a B-movie, or you were watching like some kind of Resident Evil cutscene. When we get past the first couple of episodes and you're introduced to the world, you get sucked into it because of the social dynamic that we are looking at. These characters that are just complete strangers get isolated into this building. Something is crazy that's happening. Monsters are afoot. The strain vampire monster in the very beginning caught my eye, and then the blind monster whose head got cut off, that couldn't see. There was like some stop motion effects there, some combination of that. It was pretty cool. Even though there was cheese, it still was a very entertaining show.
Yeah, it was a cheesecake. I mean, I gave the graphics a complete pass because the monster concepts were really cool. And just the very concept or the premise of the show itself was just fascinating. Like Flip said, the interesting part about this show in particular is that the monsters aren't part of some sort of infection or centralized source, right? They can come from anywhere or anyone. Anyone in that apartment building can turn into one right then and there. You don't really know. And even the common trope in these monster movies, if you get bit, you get infected. Not in this show.
Yeah, like, that's what I thought was really fascinating, because anyone can have it, right?
Yes.
Like, you get quarantined. It's just so relevant to the social topics that we are facing today. But you get your nosebleed, and that indicates that you're about to turn, and you get quarantined. No one is safe. Like, everyone can get infected at any moment. And we've got our hero Hyun Soo, who is sort of this hybrid monster where he can, you know, fight off the urge to kill humans.
Yes.
And he gets used as a weapon throughout this entire series. And that is a very interesting dynamic, or a reflection of humanity. What happens when absolute chaos and fear sets in, you know, their true nature comes out. And whether it's bad or it's good, selfish reasons, it just kind of is a reflection of human nature itself. Yeah,
everyone's biases comes to the forefront, and people can't trust each other. We had this store owner who was just, you know, you can't have any food unless you bring money. Money in a freaking post-apocalyptic world where money just doesn't really matter anymore. And then we have all of these different other characters who either have their own agendas to kind of stick to, like this model dude who cares about his skin. And we have a lady with a dog, doesn't care about anything but the dog. And then, you know, everyone just has their own little agendas to come to this social dynamic, and it all mixes in with this premise of being isolated in one space where anyone can be your enemy.
But what's amazing about it is that they all kind of come together as the episodes progress. They all start to care for each other. They have this system of surviving together and fighting the monsters together. And all of the characters have these nuances and backstories that are just so colorful and filled with emotion and drama that you get sucked into each and every one of their stories. I loved the drunk samurai. Well, not really the drunk samurai, but the Bible God-fearing samurai. He like comes out of nowhere with a samurai sword and just like, you know, wins the day for me.
Yeah, a lot of these characters were definitely a lot more interesting than the monsters themselves. The monsters did add a greater depth to the peril that the characters were facing, and as much as the show is centered around this world where monsters have largely taken over, the main meat and potatoes of this show is just the relationships between these people and how they grow to trust each other, and how they grew to trust Hyun Soo after using him as a hound and using him as an errand boy to go off into the rest of the apartment building to fetch their belongings, because he was the only one that was safe enough and strong enough to do so. And at the very end, the most important thing to each other was each other's survival and safety.
Special shout out to the firefighter. She is ripped. I mean,
Wow.
that scene when she was in the vents in her undies, all you could see was like 0 fat percentage.
Lines
It was
and
just
muscle
like
fibers
it
and
was
just
just like-
abs.
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't expecting that.
Me neither.
And it's evidence in this little social experiment that we're seeing play out in this show, because a lot of them, even though they have each other's survival and safety in mind and their best interests at heart, they're still kind of antagonistic to each other throughout the show. We have the ballerina who's always antagonizing everyone, and we have, you know, the gangster who just doesn't want to talk to anyone and largely ignores the rest of the group. But at the end, everyone comes together and starts to care for each other, and they still maintain that kind of hardened exterior or distrust towards everyone else. But they're still, when push comes to shove, they got each other's backs.
Yeah, and you could probably relate to any one of these characters as you watch this, but to me, it was really just a reflection of like what really happens when you're under that kind of stress and that kind of chaotic situation. I have no idea what I would do. I would probably be, you know, kind of stuck in a corner or hiding somewhere and wait for everything to calm down. But like, we all know that's not the right strategy here.
I know what I would do.
Now, one thing that has been stuck in my mind on what is the cause of all of this, right?
Yeah.
Was it an experiment or was it a curse? Like there was some blog that was going around articulating that this was a curse. But
The Crew blog.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this was an experiment gone bad.
Well, there's not a lot of information to confirm at least that much. I mean, we do know that the scientist was talking about the crew curse as if it was a disease that infected everyone, and once you showed symptoms, you'd have to fight it off. And then there was evidence that they were experimenting on the infected. So I don't know if this was largely a military experiment or it was something mystical like a curse that the military started experimenting on. So we just don't know, and we're hoping for a season 2 in that regard.
Yeah, in either case, towards the end. Now let's talk about the ending.
Yes.
Right? Like, first of all, that metamorphosis or that evolution that Hyun Soo goes through, that was like very Bleach, where it's just like
I have a more apropos anime reference for you, because
Okay.
I was expecting this to happen for the longest time, ever since I found out that Hyun Soo was fighting this infection off, or at least this hybrid kind of concoction of a monster. I've been waiting for his Kaneki moment, the Tokyo Ghoul moment, where he turns into this ghoul that is fighting his own, you know, kind. And that moment was just chef's kiss.
Oh, there it is. You know, at the end when he meets the other hybrid,
Yes.
who also goes through his metamorphosis. This takes us all the way in the beginning sequences of episode 1, where Hyun Soo meets the array of bullets from the military and goes down, wakes up in a military van driven by the gangster, or was it the gangster?
Yeah, I don't know where exactly this is going, so I guess the hybrid is taking Hyun Soo somewhere. We don't know where.
Yeah, I mean, the same way as Hyun Soo goes through this metamorphosis and evolution to his, you know, more like Bankai form or something like that. But the other hybrid who like just took a bullet here and then shoots it back into the other gangsters to kill them, he goes through his own metamorphosis. We get a glimpse of just how
his blood or his like matter can go into other bodies and I guess possess those bodies.
that is the only explanation that we've come up with, and I think that is the one that makes the most sense, because he doesn't have the scar or the burn scar on his face anymore, so he must have taken his body amongst this whole chaotic sequence and then takes Hyun Soo along. He does want to form some kind of super hybrid monster group, and so hopefully that's what we see in season 2.
But before we wrap things up here, just a small little shout out to Kyu Young, who I did not pay attention to as Namjori in It's Okay to Not Be Okay, largely because she was standing right next to the angel of Soyeji. But Jisoo, her character who she plays in this one, I completely fell in love with.
I mean, I loved her tenacity throughout the whole thing. She was just tough as nails. Her baseball bat, like her monster hunting baseball bat, was so iconic, along with the samurai dude. Those two, that pair, was like what really kind of helped push the show along for me.
Yeah, and I am equal parts disappointed and excited because I wanted her to learn the sword, and the guy that was to teach her is no longer there. But I hope that she becomes like a YouTube samurai, right? And is largely self-taught in the second season.
Well, I hope so,
she
too.
comes back with a sword.
Well, also a special shout out to Namdo-san's mom, who happens to be in this one as well.
Yes, a lot of familiar faces. But that'll do it for our reaction to Sweet Home. We do hope that there's going to be a second season. This show has so much potential. And of course, it ended on a very, very open-ended note. But if you enjoyed our video, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new, turn on bell notifications, and leave it in the comment section down below what your theories are for season 2. But as always, we'll see you in the next one.